Do you think anybody finds this interesting at all, or is it just
I think
the two
there's
of
at
us?
least one person that's going to be like, yes. And that's about it. So,
Well, for all of you guys who are watching, we are really excited to have you on. Pastor Eric Johnson from Bethel Church, Redding, California. It's a real honor to have you on. We're here in Redding.
yep.
And yeah, thank you for coming on to the Green Room.
Absolutely. So good to be here.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Yep.
What's new? What's going on in your life these days?
Oh, man. We're in a new stage of parenting right now. One of my daughters is in another country,
Yeah.
both out of high school, and my other one is finishing up some schooling right now, kind of where she wants to aim her career at. And so we are in a completely different state of parenting. Almost all of our friends right now have very young kids at home, and feel like grandma and grandpas already. So anyway, it's great. It's been fun.
We're similar in age. I
Yeah,
wanna say.
I'm 43.
Okay, so I'm 37.
Yeah,
Pretty not that far
pretty.
apart.
I'm pretty young.
You are. You started young. How young were you when you
We were
started?
21 when we got married. 23 in our first child. 25 second child.
Okay, yeah.
And then 43, our youngest graduated. And so, yeah, we're right there.
I saw some pictures. I was looking on your Instagram today. I dove deep into your Instagram, and there was some like curly.
Oh, you went
afro.
way back.
I did. I actually went to
You
the
went-
beginning. I saw your first
Wow.
photo. I saw photos that nobody even commented or liked on. Like, imagine the time.
Totally. That
And,
was an old Instagram when it came out.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's my natural hair, by the way.
Really,
Oh, yeah. Super curly.
it was amazing.
And
I would
a lot
encourage
of it.
everybody to
And
check
a
it out.
lot of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I had
did.
dreads for a while.
Hold on, stop.
I had dreads. I didn't need a pillow because it was so afro-y.
Was this before Todd White influenced your ministry? Or
Todd White
I'm
wasn't
just
even
kidding.
around.
I'm just kidding. I know.
No, this was before I met Candace.
Really.
And so when I was getting ready to pursue her, I cut it. And she actually really liked it. So I thought it would impress her. It unimpressed her because she actually liked to be,
Okay.
blah, blah, blah. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So anyways, yeah, I used to have a lot of hair. Now I'm just trying to manage what I have left.
There's a reason why I'm wearing this,
Totally.
this hat. How long were your dreads?
Oh, well, my hair's curly.
Yeah.
And so I'd have to pull them out. So I would say, that long, but then they just bunch up.
I think the
My hair
internet
is so curly.
is going to demand a photo. I haven't seen one on your
Go to my Instagram to scroll wait, how far down?
I went to photo 1 and I worked my way up.
Yeah, so it's a number of years ago. It's an
Okay.
old post.
I'll check it out.
Every once in a while I bring it out because people don't believe me that I had very curly hair.
So you met your wife Candace and you guys got married.
Yeah, we met in college
Mm-hmm.
in 90. We met in 96-ish and got married at end of 97. And
Okay.
yeah, so we just celebrated, and we're coming up on our 22nd year.
That's
We're in
crazy, man.
Like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Yeah, so it's wild.
That's
yeah.
a long time.
Yeah, we were just down in Santa Cruz where we met just a couple months ago. And we try to go down every year, every other year. And it's
Yeah.
fun to go back, oh, this is kind of where it all began right here for us. So it's cool.
Now you've told me before that you were actually going to get started in ministry, not in the pastorate, if I remember correctly. You were going to go into full-time missions. We had dinner
I
at your
actually
house.
wanted to be in professional sports.
Okay.
That was baseball. I was fully committed to that. Had some arm issues, so I redshirted, met with my coach, and he said, I want you to redshirt your freshman year. And right then and there, I knew I'm done with sports. So I went through a season where I moved to Mexico to work at an orphanage, and it was there. I've always been involved with mission my whole life, but it was like, this is what I want to do. I want to just do mission. That's it.
Yeah.
And so I went to Bible college to get my pastor's license, and then from there, hopefully get married and then go to the nations. And so all of that happened except Bethel started happening.
Yeah.
And that was in 96, 97-ish.
Yeah.
My parents moved to Redding,
Okay.
and my wife and I were getting ready to move to Mexico, and we were looking at going back to where I had done some ministry. But then I felt like we were supposed to go to Redding for a season. And so, and that's the course we took.
Yeah.
And
So,
So-
my first involvement in Bethel, well, it wasn't really involvement. My first kind of like meeting was in 99.
99,
Yep,
okay.
1999. I was saved 3 months, and there was a conference in somewhere in Massachusetts. I want to say Western Mass. I believe you had
Was it my uncle's
an uncle
church?
that has a church
In Pepperell.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I just got saved 3 months, and I went to this conference. I slept on the floor of some dude's hotel room that were like attending the conference. I didn't have any money, and I met your father there. So it was Randy Clark, this pastor from Redding, California, that nobody even heard of. Redding.
Oh, yeah.
And a guy named Bob Bradbury,
Yes.
whose ministry I got saved under. So it was the three of them doing this conference at a hotel in Pepperell or somewhere right out near there. I'm originally from Massachusetts, and it's the only time I've ever seen this. As your father, I remember Randy getting up and introducing him, and I think your father had been out to his church to speak at a conference, and this was the second or third thing they had ever done together. And Randy gets up, he introduces your father, and he says, "No, none of you know who this man is, but you will know this man, and his anointing will eclipse mine." And everybody just laughed because this is like in the throngs of, Toronto revival.
Totally.
Yeah, I remember it vividly. And your father got up and he spoke. I remember all of his messages that he shared. And as he spoke, people started screaming. It's the only time I've ever seen this, and like in a good way. Like their brains were getting fried. So they were just like, I can't handle this. And they got up and they ran out and they went to his book table and just scooped. It's the only time I've seen like a fight at a bookstore. And the only reason I saw it is because I was there in the middle of it, like pushing old ladies out as they were manifesting to scoop up their tapes. And your father said this. He said, all my stuff is copyrighted. This was back then. This was tapes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You have the right to copy it and give it away and bless somebody. Yep. And that was my first introduction. 1999. And he told some stories that I still think about today. And forgive me, I don't want to talk about your dad. You're here, but I want to just share how I got involved. He told stories about like the Roadrunner. Do you remember that?
That shaped our house.
Yeah, and so the Roadrunner, and he told a story about the tree in his office that he would pour coffee grounds into.
Yep. His cold coffee.
Yes.
Leftover cold coffee.
Yeah. And what the Lord spoke to him in that whole season.
Yeah.
And that wrecked my life. And I used to listen to his stuff.
So you saved 3 months.
I would save 3 months.
That's amazing.
And fast forward a couple months, I ended up meeting him with Randy out at Charles Stock's church before they had their new building. They just purchased it. And it spiraled out of there. And just a few months later, I was going to try to move out here and join the second or third year of school.
Yeah. Wow.
But that's how I got connected.
So we actually go way back.
We do.
Didn't know.
And I feel like I met you years ago because I came out here in like 2001 with Randy, and some dude picked us up in like a broken down minivan. We broke down he was like a dude from the church was like, I'll pick up Randy's interns. And I remember getting here, and it was a different season with your dad, and he just took us to the Lumberjacks and just fed us pie. Like I remember, and I'm pretty sure you were there, and your mom was there, and like I'm pretty sure you were there, and Brian was there, and we would just load up in a minivan, and I just remember your dad just being like, "Eat pie," and like he bought like 6 pies, and we ate pie. And that was my introduction here.
That's so random and cool. That's awesome.
I love it. So I think that was the first time I met you. But then fast forward.
I don't remember meeting you.
I know most people.
I'm so sorry.
I can understand. Let me just put these away. Then. But most people forget. But that's what.
Not anymore, Will.
Well,
not anymore.
We'll see what happens. The future will tell us. But since then, this last season, I've been able to reconnect with you, and I've just
over bees.
Which was the weirdest thing. And I've really, 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 really enjoyed it.
Yep.
And I've also been confronted with my inability to control my purchasing of bee equipment.
That is true.
By you and your wife.
Your
wife cornered me.
I find it amusing. But see, I can relate to the obsession. I have to control it or else I aim it. And right now it's aimed over here. But yours is aimed at bees. I think it's great.
Let's talk about this for a second.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had my wife and I over at your house.
Yeah.
Loved your house. We had such a great time. And we went walking afterwards, and we were just talking about stuff. You were like, "Hey, what are you into?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Well, I haven't really told anybody." You were actually the first person, except for like my Instagram, that I actually shared this with that didn't, that wasn't one of these guys that doesn't know me. And all I remember is your jaw dropping and being like, I've been wanting to do bees for years.
Yeah.
Why?
We bought that property. The idea of having bees is fascinating, but when we bought the 15 acres that we live on now, like, we need some beehives. Let's have our own honey. I love honey.
Okay.
And then, the other side of it was the bee population globally is obviously an issue. I thought, well, I can help by having my own bees. So that was that part of it. And then I found a guy, you're talking about bees, I'm going to hook me up.
We drove that night to my little apiary. It's now turned into an apiary. For those of you who don't know what an apiary is, it's a person that has issues and they buy a lot of bees.
I was in Wingcoat yesterday, buying those buckets for the harvest, and I'm holding these buckets, and the lady behind me says something to the lady at the cash register, and she had like a honeybee, like a metal honeybee on her, like a pin on her shirt, and they're like, "Oh, that's so cute," and she's made a comment about honey. I said, "That's what these buckets for. I'm harvesting honey." She's all, "Nuh-uh." So we got the whole honey conversation. Yeah. And she's all, how many hives do you have? I got 2. She's all, that's amazing. How many do you have? She's all, well, 300?
Stop.
She said 300 hives. And she's all, we have a commercial. Oh, you're an apiary. She's all, yeah. So I said, do you buy these buckets? She's all, no, we order barrels. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, sorry, you're in a whole different world.
You can be there though, Eric.
But, I know. No, you're going to be there. You're going to be there.
Continue. I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
So, no, it's been fun. Yeah, so we kind of connected a little bit more recently around bees and beehives.
Yeah.
So it's been cool.
I really like it. I get stung a lot. I don't know. I feel like you haven't been stung yet.
No, because I wear everything.
That's the issue.
You're trying to do the hippie approach.
That's literally the furthest thing away from anything that I am. I'm not a hippie at all. And I know I'm supposed to care about the bees publicly, but that's not why I'm doing this. I don't even really like honey. I mean, I do. It doesn't make sense. But
how can you not like honey?
I mean, I don't have anything against it, but it doesn't, it's not something that I use or think about. I'm not like, ooh, put honey in my coffee.
But it's been an amazing outlet for you.
Yeah. I've just enjoyed having a hobby. I need to get away and do things. You're busy, you travel, and everybody's pulls on you. You're pastor, but you're not just pastoring a church locally. You're the platform that God has you guys in is you're pastoring a lot of churches around the world. You're influencing Christendom around the world. You guys really are. What's coming out of Reading, what's coming out of Bethel is amazing if you actually sit back and think about it.
It is wild.
And there's all these things that pull, and I needed something that I could just do on my own.
Totally.
And so I found a great joy. Actually, I'm not doing it on my own. I'm doing it with my father.
That's fun.
Which has been really
which is
fun.
so good.
He just doesn't like the bees either, but he builds stuff for me and takes care of things for me. So I love it. He's a good guy. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it. And we were going to go and harvest actually directly after the spin on your honey.
But my bees have been slow lately, so we give them another week and we'll see.
Now you named your queens. Can you share this stuff?
Sheba and Bertha. And Sheba was named Sheba because we couldn't find her forever. Remember, you came over.
Uh-huh. Oh, I remember.
We couldn't find her.
Yeah.
And so I Googled most elusive queen in history, and Queen Sheba came up. I thought, all right, that's her name, Queen Sheba. And then Candace named the other one Bertha.
Do you think anybody finds this interesting at all, or is it just
I think
the two
there's
of
at
us?
least one person that's going to be like, yes. And that's about it.
Does your wife like it?
Or she liked the fact that we're going to have honey.
Okay.
And she honestly doesn't care too much.
Okay.
She thinks it's cool. It'll be nice next to our garden and our orchard for the pollination aspect.
Yeah.
So that part we're looking forward to because I got them after the
right. We got into it a little late in the season.
Yeah. So I think next spring will be fun to see what happens. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So you also in the middle of this, I found out something that you like to do as well.
Yep.
Which blew me away, which was sourdough bread.
Sourdough bread.
Talk to me about this real quick.
That for me was actually part of my process last year of coming out of the crash. And I needed to find things that required me to slow down, use my hands. And we love bread. My wife and I love sourdough bread. And the process, just you start on something, but you can't eat and partake of it till the next day. So even that alone is just a really healthy thing.
Yeah.
And then the bread itself is so much better than what you could buy in a store. So that's been fun. I haven't made a loaf in probably a month and a half, 2 months. I've been traveling a bit, so that's why.
Yeah.
But we have it started. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So having honey, and I'm eventually going to make my own butter.
Okay.
That could be something you could get into.
Milk and honey.
Yes. So milk and honey and my own bread. And what more do you need?
Are you going to sell your honey?
I thought about it.
Where?
I don't know yet. I don't know. I've thought about it, but I'm not sure if I want to put the time and energy into it.
Yeah, it's a lot of time. I've thought about it too.
But the more I talk to people, the more people are becoming aware that the honey you buy in stores is most of it, if not all of it, is not honey.
Yeah.
So the demand for real honey is pretty high from what I'm gathering. So I'm like,
I was down at a coffee shop right down the road here, and I know the guy that owns it. Is, and he's. I was like, hey, let me bring you a jar of honey, and like if you ever want more, like, I'll supply.
I got
you
a lot.
Yeah, I got gallons, and so I as I was talking to him, this woman sitting at a table, like overheard, and she's like, do you have honey? And she's like, I want to buy hundreds of gallons. And it was just like that. Like I've had 5 of those conversations.
Hundreds of gallons.
I had a woman offer me like over 6 figures already just for
The
products.
wax. The wax, huh?
Yeah,
That's right. You
for
were telling
wax.
me that.
And it's like the weirdest thing. And that's never happened to me where I've had a hobby where people are like, I want it. I mean, I'm eager. Like,
You know
there's
what I
something
found
on it.
interesting is a lot of people aren't doing it, but a lot of people want to do bees. That's what I've learned since you've gotten into me hides. I'm like, oh, I want to do that. So maybe there's more than one listener
Yeah.
that is actually into this. So
Well, I have a business idea, but I don't want to get it caught in the weeds. We're going to talk about it later, Eric. We're going to make millions on bees, or
I'll
not
just
make
follow
anything
your
at all.
lead.
Or no, don't follow my lead. Mine is one of excessiveness, not planning, and
That's true.
financial.
I'll help with the self-control.
Irresponsibility. Please, I feel like you should pastor me in this. Like it was amazing. You, your dad, and your wife. Like I'm just sitting out there going, I'm buying bees, and don't tell my wife. Like I said that in front of you guys, and it was bad. But anyway, you mentioned something that you came out of the season of. This last season, for those people who don't know, you have done a message that's gone worldwide. I've even had conversations like Heidi and Roland have listened to it.
Yeah.
Like it's gone worldwide, and I listened to all of it more than once, and it's been such an impacting message in my own life.
It's cool.
And share with us a little bit about that crash, because everybody loves the success, everybody loves the glitz and the glamour, but most people, they don't know how to process, especially in the church. How do you handle those low seasons?
Yeah.
Can you just share a little bit about that? And I know you've shared it a ton. If people want to get in depth, they can listen to it.
Yeah, I'll just start, and if you want to steer it or ask questions. Yeah, the short version of 2018 was by far the worst year of my life. Pretty much all of it involved me having an emotional breakdown, just a full-blown crash. A brand new experience for me. Obviously, I'm around people that have been through it. My brother and Chris Valentin, and then just pastoring church people. You just run into it. So it wasn't completely foreign, but experientially never experienced it. And I've never dealt with anxiety. So that was the weird part. So I think some people maybe have a propensity to have anxiety, may have a propensity to struggle with crashes and stuff. I just never dealt with anxiety. At least I didn't think I did. And so last May, it was June of 2018, a couple things happened. There was a social media nightmare that involved some people that in our house and blah, blah, blah. I won't get into detail, but it pulled me into it, and I had to do some damage control and then just kind of, how do we fix this? And then I was also in the process of hiring a leadership coach. I've had a leadership coach in my life for, almost 20 years now. Just someone that I meet with proactively about leadership. So I was in the process of hiring a new one, and he wanted to do some test on me, which is basically me answering a bunch of questions. Right. So I do the test. He called me up 2 weeks later, and he said a couple things. The biggest thing for this chat would be, you are in the top 2 toughest leadership dynamics I've ever come across. And we went into discussion of why and what that was. But when I hung up the phone, I felt super validated. I'm like, that was actually very encouraging. It kind of gave substance to what we're trying to do. Right. But then literally I called my wife, talked to her, and I think maybe that evening I started falling apart. And what it was is I finally admitted I'm not doing okay. So I was just manning up for a long period of time.
Can I just ask a quick question? So you're not doing okay. How's that manifesting? Like, are you not praying? Are you not reading? Are you not being a good husband, father? Are you not handling your time? What did that look like in the natural?
Yeah, for me it was I am not doing good emotionally and mentally. I am stuffing how I'm actually feeling. What I found I didn't know in this moment, I was stuffing tons of anger, I didn't know anger lived in me. And so when I found out there was a monster in me that was called anger, and that's part of the story I can get into. I was incredibly angry, incredibly sad, and really frustrated. All of that I was just stuffing. I was ignoring it. And there's reasons for that. My counseling helped me through all that. So about May, June, when this stuff started happening, I started getting chest pains. It was a Saturday morning. I remember getting these chest pains, and I thought it was something I ate. So I thought it was, what I ate for breakfast or last night dinner. I'm like, oh, heartburn. It's like, oh.
Too much sourdough.
Yeah, too much sourdough, yeah. And a couple of days went by, and I'm like, wow, I still feel that, huh? So I mentioned it to my wife. I said, I feel this pressure. I'm not sure what it is. I've never had it before. Well, a couple of weeks goes by, and I realized, oh, this is what people call chest pain. And I was starting to fall apart leading up to that. So I realized, oh, this is my body is telling me, it's giving me symptoms of what's going on.
Yeah.
So to make a somewhat long story short, from May to once I got into about July and August, I was in pretty bad shape. I was in really bad shape. I hadn't yet got a counselor involved or a therapist. I had just pulled, my parents in, obviously my wife and some friends. I told some of my main leadership team, but by August, end of July, I had lost control of 100% to control my thoughts. Like I would have a thought and I couldn't control where it would go.
Okay.
No matter what I did.
Give me an example.
So if, an example, something like an issue at work.
Right.
Something I got to solve, like a problem and a solution.
Corey yelled at you
about
that
happened
the
almost
way
every
your truck
day.
looks.
Yeah, literally anything.
Okay.
And my mind would just start spinning. Mm-hmm. And I would and if I couldn't figure out how to fix it, it was just an endless loop. I couldn't close the loop. And so by July, I had pretty much, and my team pretty much took all my responsibility away. They basically said, get help, get better. But I had on purpose, removed myself from any form of pressure because anything would trigger me.
Can I just want to, because as you're saying this, when you say that with a team, like we all deal with teams. You deal with a team. Mm-hmm. You have one of the largest staff, I think church staffs that I've heard of in America.
It's pretty large.
I heard it's one of the largest. But anyway, how do you face that as a leader where you're like, my team, my staff sees me at my weakest, and that actually comes out? Did your staff start to lose?
No, it was actually an incredible moment for me and my team. The team was amazing. So I had some of that normal leadership stuff of like, got to be strong. Mm-hmm. If you're dealing with stuff, deal with it over there, but be strong in front of your team. Yeah. And I didn't. At the time, I thought I knew what vulnerability was. Mm-hmm. Looking back, I know what vulnerability is much differently now than I thought it was. And so for me, when I went to our kind of my close leadership, my executive team, and that's when they started taking stuff from me. They kind of divided my world and handed it out, got rid of it, so to speak. And then I met with our leadership team, which is about 14, 15 of them. And I just broke down and cried. Said, this is where I'm at. And this had been building for years. So this wasn't like one night. It was like I had just been dealing with tons of pressure and stress and stuffing it, not dealing with it. And it finally caught up to me. Mm-hmm. And so when I told my team, the alarming thing was one of my team members spoke up and said, I had no idea.
Wow.
And I realized, wow, I thought I was vulnerable, but obviously I'm not. So that was an eye-opener, super helpful to hear that. And then they were all like, whatever you need, we're there. We're here. And so my team was awesome. So that was beautiful. So I kind of hibernated for a season. I mean, everything would trigger me. Like we have a dog and 2 cats. If I saw, we have hardwood floors. Mm-hmm. So if I saw animal hair on the floor, I would get anxiety. It would just spike my anxiety. I mean, it was ridiculous. Looking back, it was like, man, that's a bad place to be. But that was real.
Is this kind of normally how you function, and then it just like It
Yeah,
explodes.
I would
Like,
say-
are you a neat freak? Like, do you?
I'm pretty particular.
Yeah.
You know, some call it OCD.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm that definitely. It was just on steroids.
Okay.
Like there was no reason to it. There was no like, it was just functional, massive dysfunction. You know, my lawn. I love mowing my lawn and getting nice lines. And if it wasn't done right, which I do it, I would just anxiety. Of just
Wow.
so everything triggered me. So any problem in our environment that came at me would even make, so just I couldn't function. So I just removed myself. So by end of July, I'm in such bad shape, I can't even control my thoughts. So my days were measured by how long can I go into the day without getting triggered. So if I got triggered at 9 in the morning, I was like, this is going to be such a long day because I would just spin and
Right.
I couldn't close the loop. I would try to watch something, listen. I just try to nothing closed the loop.
Prayer, all this,
declarations,
all the Christian things.
I did all the
do
Christian
this,
stuff
do this,
to
do this. Okay.
Did it all.
Yeah.
Nothing would close the loop, and that around that it was kind of coming. It's like I need to get a counselor. I need to hire somebody.
Okay.
Blah blah blah. But I needed somebody outside of the environment just for my own. I just needed that just for extra level of confidentiality and for me to feel free to just be genuinely honest.
I totally get that.
Like,
yeah.
if we want to get to the bottom of
Right.
it, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So I got connected to a gal who's now one of my close friends. And obviously, I tell you, I think you saved my life, honestly. You saved my life in so many ways. And so I started meeting with her in August and doing really well with her. And I was like, I'm getting better. Chest pain left. I haven't had them since August, September last year. So it's been over a year now. I'm like, I'm doing really good. And she's like, no, remember, we've removed every form of pressure in your life. So you're like, you're hibernated. So she's like, I just got you out of pain.
Yeah.
Now we need to get to the real stuff. But there was an event that happened, which is funny. It's 1 year next week. We had a dinner party at our house, which seemed a little crazy with the condition I was in, but I actually just wanted some friends and just hang out. And it would end of summer, going into the fall. We had a car fire. We were just like, we want fall. It was just, and that was compounded. A car fire, was compounded on all this. So,
and that season was just insane.
It was insanity.
It was crazy.
Everybody was dealing with some, so to deal with this, and it was just a lot. So, so we had a dinner party, like 30, 40 people in our backyard. And so it was already preset. And so that day I'm like, I can't function. And I'm running on empty, but I'm doing better, no chest pains. And it usually takes me about 2 or 3 hours to get my backyard set up for a party of this size. And I thought, well, I'll just take all day, go really slow, set my backyard up, do the whole deal. And so I go in the back and I thought, okay, by noon, 1 o'clock, I'm gonna take a nap, get some rest, and then go back and finish. And I'm having everything going slow. I'm mowing the yard slow, I'm doing the light, I'm doing everything. And about noon, I go into my garage to get a tool to do something before I was gonna take a nap. So I go in the garage, we have a half bathroom in the garage. And I walk in the garage and the toilet had backed up and there's raw sewage, like literally raw sewage, all over my garage.
Yeah.
I went into a full-blown panic anxiety attack. Like just red line, big time. So I come running out of the garage. My wife's working in the backyard, and I'm losing it. And she's like, "It's fine. We'll cancel the party." I'm like, "No, I'm not in my right. I'm spinning. I'm out of control."
Are you aware of that, or are you in the moment?
I'm pretty in the moment, but I'm also aware that I'm acting pretty hyper.
Okay.
So I'm aware of that, and I can tell my wife looking at me, just trying to get me to calm down, but I'm in hyper mode. And so, long story short, I call a septic guy. And he said, you can come over an hour and a half. I said, great. And I'm frantic, but I can't find my pick to dig the ground up to find the access to my septic tank. And I laugh about it now, but I was flipping out about I can't find my pick. And I have a shed that's like a couple hundred yards away. I have a couple sheds, 15 acres. So I'm like literally running around the property. Where's my pick? And my wife's like, I'll go buy a pick. I'm like, no. And so we're having this. It's funny now, but in the moment it was horrible. And I'm digging my back. I'm a yard guy, so I'm digging holes in my backyard trying to find the septic tank. I'm going like 2 feet down. Can you imagine?
I'm not laughing at you. No, it's just I get it. Like,
I'm in a full-blown panic attack, digging my yard up. And, septic tanks are only 6 inches on the ground. Yeah. But I went 2 feet. So I thought maybe I missed it. No, I'm out of my mind.
You're in it.
Bro, it was bad.
Yeah.
So finally, I can't find the access. So the guy at the poop truck, the
Right.
septic guy, pulled in the driveway. So by this time, I had been redlining for about 2 hours and digging. I'm in panic. So I walk down the driveway to meet the guy, and the big Mexican guy gets out of the truck. And he looks at me, and this is when I knew things were bad. He looked at me and said, "Hey, you all right?" And I'm all, "No." And he comes over to me. He comes up the driveway. His name is Raul.
Yeah.
He comes up. He grabs me on the shoulder, and he looks me in the eye and said, "Hey, I'll take care of it."
Yeah.
And I'm not exaggerating. I literally wanted to kiss him
Yeah.
and jump in his arms.
Yeah.
'Cause it was just like an angel from heaven.
Yeah.
So I walked him to the backyard. He does his job, cleans out the tank, yada, yada. The tank had filled up.
Right.
And then he called me over and he said, "Eric, come look, I'll tell you what I did." So I walk over, I look down the tank, and he's talking to me about what he did. I don't really hear him. I hear the Holy Spirit say, "This is what I'm doing to you right now. I'm pumping a lot of poop out, basically." And that's what began what I would say the hardest part of the process. So that was middle of September. And for the next, so September, October, November, December was the hardest season of my life.
Yeah.
And with a couple with my counselor, obviously the Holy Spirit, just getting deep into some stuff that was just really painful. That's when I realized I was incredibly angry at a lot of stuff. Didn't know that.
I would never imagine that in a million. The little that I do know you, but you've been around long enough. You've been around a long time in the public and as a minister.
Totally.
Stuff comes out.
Yeah.
And all the times I've watched you minister, heard you speak, that is never.
Exactly.
There's other guys that I've thought about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like all the
it's
time.
It's obvious on other
Yeah.
guys. But for me, what it was is what happened within a counseling session, my counselor would ask me this question. And I hesitated, I delayed in answering her. I said, "Well, it's," and I'm formulating the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And she's all, "What are you doing right now?" I said, "Well, I want to make sure I say it right." And she's all, "Stop editing your thoughts. You're editing your thoughts." And I'm like, "All right." And then all of a sudden, I felt the anger, not at her, but like the thing I was trying to edit. And I realized, long story short, I had been telling myself it's not okay to be angry, or you're not supposed to be angry.
Yeah.
So I would never let myself be angry. So I would rephrase it. I would never call it anger, and I would never let myself be angry.
Now, would your wife say the same thing about you? Would she say that you were shoving down anger?
She would probably, if she was sitting here, she'd probably say, "You're not being honest with yourself."
Yeah.
She probably would definitely be saying that. I don't know if she would say, "You're angry, you don't even know it." She'd say, "You're not connected." Okay. She would say that for sure.
Okay.
And looking back, I'm like, oh, super disconnected. And a lot of it was, and in the process, I realized I had shut my heart down. Mm-hmm. There were kind of two significant moments where I literally shut my heart down. One about 8-ish years ago, and the other one about 14, 15 years ago.
Okay.
Don't need to go into those
That's
details.
Fine. Yeah.
But I shut my heart down and lived in my head. And so what triggered the breakdown is when I could not fix the problem.
Yeah.
I couldn't fix it because I was just living in my head for so many years that I completely disconnected from my heart. So my counselor gets me reconnected to my heart and found out I'm super angry.
Yeah.
Super sad, incredibly sad, just weeping sad, and then just really just frustrated, which is kind of connected to anger, but just a different type of. So that was alarming. It was scary. I mean, it was 4 months. For some people, the season's a lot longer. For me, it was just a really intense 4 months. And I was not functional. I wasn't functional in a social sense. I wasn't functional I had no capacity.
Yeah.
All the above. My wife, taught her kids. So at the time, my daughters were, 16, 18. I mean, they're teenagers, later teenagers. And, I found out afterwards that my wife said, "Hey, girls, if you need anything, just come to me for right now. Dad didn't, not that."
Yeah.
I didn't know that, and I'm glad. So Candace kind of carried the load as far as just the home life. She carried a ton of load at the church, so.
I don't know your wife that well, but the little that I have seen her and the way that she navigates the position that she has in a small community. Every time I see her out, I always see her out in public. I rarely do I see her, in the things that you think about, but I see her out at Costco or whatever.
Yeah.
And she is, the way that she carries herself, the way that she carries that pastoral, that community care in the middle of just this explosively large community, I think is really beautiful. I'm so impressed.
It's remarkable for sure.
I really am.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you came through this season.
Yeah.
And coming out of it, as you've been sharing this, I'm sure you're getting testimonies. Some of the greatest feedback I get is when I share my failures or the struggles, whether it was my wife and I went through cancer, which is different, but
Crazy,
I also talk about our marriage. We went through a huge marriage where everything imploded.
Yeah.
And I share those things, and I get testimonies like out the wazoo when you share that. What are some of the things that you're hearing connect to the hearts of people as you're opening up this really?
Yeah. So it was December. It was like December 8th and 9th. Another thing happened with the Lord, revolving the septic tank. It's another long story, but it kind of ended the season. I could feel like it. Now I still had to. I would say the crash ended, but the rebuilding began. That was early December. So we're at 9-10 months later, and I think it was in January. I think I flew to New Zealand to take care of. I had to deal with some stuff there and then do a conference, and so I'm a month out of this crash. So I'm really raw, but I actually don't care. Like this is, I hope this is not inappropriate, but I told my team.
There's nothing inappropriate on this.
So I told my team. So I came out of the crash. We had a staff, our leadership team, a retreat. Actually ended, middle end of January. And I said, guys, this is how I describe where I'm at right there. I'm naked and I'm loving it. I mean naked in the sense of like, I am so exposed right now. And I mean, there's nothing I'm not hiding right now. I mean, I am literally exposed, not just to you, but to, because I spoke on Christmas Sunday. Yeah. That's, it's on the message you referred to. I just shared the whole story. Yeah. And just the whole thing, alone with God.
Can I ask you a quick question? Because as I'm remembering all these things I want to ask you as you're sharing the story, what's the balance as a leader that you guys have worldwide recognition? Every message goes out to the world. What's the balance of sharing? Like, where's that line where you share too much? Is there a line where you share too much?
I don't know if there probably is a line, depending on what topic. But on this topic, I don't know if there is a line as much of, is this the only thing you talk about?
Right.
So obviously we don't talk about this every week.
Right.
But because it was such a significant season and a crash for me, and I am the senior pastor of the church, it was like the church needs to know where I'm at. And honestly, they had no idea. Most of the people were like, I'm really good at.
Yeah.
That was part of my issue too. That part of my dysfunction is I'm really good at projecting something that I want you to see.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm like, oh gosh. So obviously as a leader, you don't want to just project. There's a whole nother conversation behind that. But I think the point is there a line? I don't know if there's a line as much as how often do you talk about it. I just knew I needed to.
Yep.
What I didn't realize till I was done, it actually helped me in the healing process.
Yeah.
Because I was doing something that was so against my norm, being literally stripped naked in front of our family, our church.
Yeah.
It said, this is where I'm at. This is what I just went through. This is where I'm at. And this is this. And so to answer your earlier question about testimony, it's been overwhelming. I think the biggest thing that's been fascinating for me, so I went to New Zealand, like I said, and it was a leaders conference. And the afternoon session, I did 4 sessions in one day. Afternoon sessions were fine, but the morning session was, I just shared the story.
Yeah.
I just took an hour and I shared the whole story. I'm in tears. I am fresh out of this. And everyone said that's why we came to this conference, for that. And I think what it is leaders and people too. I think just people in general, they don't realize, what I hear from people, they say, I now have permission. It's okay. I don't need to hide, I don't need to just stuff this stuff. And I think for leaders, for them to go, I'm actually not doing well.
Yeah.
Instead of just manning up and, whatever. So the testimonies have been overwhelming still to this day.
Have there been some points, and I know all teachers, all ministers, especially our Christendom, we want they want to know the healing at the end, and they want to see like kind of the closure, 3 points that you learned. And I don't want to boil it down to that, but was there anything that you walked out of now that you've walked through the process, and you must have walked other people through this process? Is there anything you can look back and say, listen, if you're experiencing this and this and this, do your best to do this and this and this to see breakthrough?
Yeah, I would. Obviously, if you're experiencing any symptom physically, like chest pains, are you dealing with anxiety? Is it spiking? Is it, just the mind not being able to close loops? If that stuff's happening, then those are symptoms. Those are things telling you get help, do something. So if you're experiencing that, thankfully I didn't lose sleep. I wasn't like up all night. I talk to people. They have this and sleep deprivation. Right. That's a whole nother level that I don't have experience with. So I would say anything on the physical level, get help. I think if something so dumb is triggering you, then it's probably time to get something checked on for sure. Avoiding people, like just.
That's like all I
uncharacteristically, like I'm just avoiding people, and I'm avoiding pressure. I'm just avoiding a lot of stuff. Sometimes I think that's you. You're just something's going on, and you're not admitting it. So those are some of the thoughts I have on that. Yeah.
Not to change the subject, but it's all following the same narrative. I know I've listened to Chris Valentin talk about this. I've listened to you. I have not read your brother's book.
Yeah.
But I've read inserts and heard little snippets here and there. He's very open about a crash in his life. So are you guys? I mean, is there something that you guys are tackling as a staff or as a community? Do you think this is something that, because of this really amazing community where people are open and they process out in the open, is that why we're hearing so much of it? Or do you think that it? Can I get a little spiritual? Do you think that there is because we are in this charismatic Pentecostal movement that looks at not just the natural but the spiritual? Do you think? Have you guys had any of those conversations?
What's interesting, like when take Chris's book, it's a very spiritual. His crash was very connected to a spiritual thing. Brian was probably a combination. Now, I'll say for me, when I say it wasn't spiritual, that wouldn't be fully accurate. But I didn't feel like it was spiritual as it was just me.
Yeah.
And so obviously what comes first, I don't know, which comes first. I didn't feel like it was, leading something that we're leading, there's definite pressure, stress.
Yeah.
That stuff is just norm.
Right.
And I think it's probably just me getting disconnected from my heart.
Yeah.
That was the thing that was my poor decision. And honestly, I didn't realize it. I'll be really honest. It wasn't like one day I woke up that I'm just going to disconnect from my heart. It wasn't that. It was just, I just over time got disconnected.
Yeah.
And so for me, I felt like it was very much an emotional thing. And obviously the enemy attached itself to that, and I definitely was attacked with thoughts and et cetera. So I don't know if that answers your question, but those are my thoughts. Have we talked about it? Yeah, for sure. The way all three of us specifically got out of it is very different. Right. Brian ended up using some anxiety medicine just to get things down to a level so he can get healthy. I never went to the med route. I didn't need to it. Was
that like a conscious choice that you made, or?
Well, actually, I don't think it was. I just the chest pain went away about a month after counseling, but the real work began, and so things were progressing. I think if I was stuck, that might have been an option.
Yeah.
But I feel like it was progressing enough, and my counselor didn't feel like I needed to, so I just followed her lead, really.
Chris's book, Spirit Wars, he talks about how he went on medication to get to a point where he could actually begin to deal with this stuff.
Yeah.
To come off of it. A lot of people, that offends them.
Totally.
And I love it. Yeah. When he said that, there was places as I travel around the world that one little snippet of him saying that set so many people free.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation.
It is. It's It's probably another conversation for another day.
Oh, totally. But I would just say, just for the record now, I would say if that's a route you go, I don't know if it should be up to the patient to determine it as much as it's a combination of multiple people speaking into it versus only the doctor's opinion or just the patient. I think it needs to be a community of people. In other words, your spouse or friends. So it's not just this, because it can be abused. That's the other issue that we have now is it becomes the dependency thing. And then that's a whole nother cycle you have to break. And so I think at least in Brian's story and Chris's story, it was an aid to help them get free versus it didn't become a dependency issue.
Yeah.
So that's something that's worth discussing.
I don't know, I have a completely different, you and I are totally different. You're a pastor. I'm just a weirdo with a microphone. You have a totally different skill set. But as I pull back and I look at the amount of pressure that I've come under in this last transition, and when I say pressure, I'm not saying a bad thing. I think it's a
no, it's just
thing.
Normal. Yeah,
Leadership.
It's
to
leadership.
See the amount of pressure that is on you guys from the outside world to, I don't know. I can't imagine what you guys, as a community, how you handle that. I mean, the reality is what's coming out of Bethel is going around planet Earth. There isn't anywhere I can go. I was just in middle of nowhere, Tasmania.
Yeah.
Like middle of nowhere, town of 1,200 people.
Yeah.
And they're all singing songs that have been birthed out of this house. They're all
it's crazy,
core
huh?
messages here are have shaped their community. There's students, I couldn't go a single place in middle of nowhere, Tasmania, where a student wasn't there. In fact, there was a student 6 years ago from here that set up the conference there because they're just believing God to do more, and they're working a job, and they just got this vision. And so even that in the middle of nowhere, Tasmania. The world watches you guys. How have you handled navigating that? Because every move you make, every word you say is criticized or celebrated.
Yeah, I think how have we navigated that? We have an amazing team, so it doesn't fall on one person. Now, we all carry that weight. I think if it was only on one of us, if it was only on my dad, or only on Chris, or me, or Brian, or Ken, or whoever, Danny, or any of the crew, then that would crush them. It would probably kill them. But because we're a team, and because of the massive history of running together in normal life and in ministry life, there's a certain strength that you get in that. So to say there isn't pressure isn't true. There's a ton of pressure, but at the same time, it's this is what we're called to. I mean, and then in the midst of the pressure, the other side of it, the fruit, the testimony, the impact overwhelms this part. There's no question. And so as long as we are really good at keeping this the priority, that's why testimony culture is huge for us. It's not just a good idea, but it's actually a lifeline to navigate just everything. It's what is God doing? Okay, that's where we're at. And He's going to give us grace and wisdom how to navigate the onslaught or the attention, the criticism and praise. And so I think the team, the ability to run together, the testimony culture. And then I think, it feels like making decisions, how we make decisions, when we do it together, it works really well. Yeah. At least our experience, I should say. Yeah. So even right now, we're dealing with several pressure points, onslaught on different topics, and I would tell them.
Is there any topics you can share? No, you don't want it. It's fine. I get it. I totally get it. Don't worry about it.
Not
no,
today.
it's okay.
Not today.
I get it. We'll do it at another time.
Yeah. So so we're dealing with a few points of pressure right now, and I think so. Right now, this week, I just feel off this week. Yeah, I just feel a little off, and so my wife today, just before I came here, she was all, "Tell me about that." And all right, so I went through a list. And I finally said, "Yeah, that's why I feel off. It would be understandable." Yeah. So I think it's just being honest. Yeah. That's the season I'm in. That bothers me. versus, no, it didn't bother me. It's like,
Yeah.
no, it actually does. So I feel like I'm in a different season. When I was in my crash, the Lord said, I'm going to give you a new operating system. The one you have at that point got you here, but it's not going to get you where we're going.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm learning a new operating system now. I literally am learning it as we talk. I'm like, oh, so learn to be more honest with myself, being real about it, and then at the same time shaping my life to have a lot of fun too.
Right.
I've never been the guy that's not known how to have fun. I think I'm just guarding it more religiously and unapologetically. That makes sense.
Yeah,
versus
totally.
like, I feel bad for doing this. Like, why? No. And so I'm in a new season. So to answer your question, how do we navigate it?
Yeah.
I think if we take care of ourselves really well, then we can navigate it, and then it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, I want to value your time, and I really do.
Yep.
Can I just get in a couple more quick questions?
You're great. Go
Are you
for
sure?
it. I am
Yes,
positive.
come
I am
on.
positive.
Okay, so you guys you're surrounded by giants. I've never seen a community that has so many people that can be number ones. And you know what I'm saying? Like they can be, they're leaders. They are leaders.
Yeah.
And they're influencing the planet. Whether just ministries that are under just there's so many alphas, right?
Totally.
How do you guys navigate that?
Well, my dad said something forever ago. He said, I have no desire to build big ministry. I have a desire to build big people. So that really was the beginning of a culture. Now, some of that I believe he got from his parents. They definitely laid a foundation. But my dad, and then you have Chris Vallotton come along, who is, my dad is the guy that, the philosopher, the vision guy. This is what God's called us. And Chris is the phenomenal builder. So those were the two guys 20-something, 30 years ago, whatever it was, and Chris is the builder. And so the culture was built with the idea, we're going to raise up sons and daughters. We're not just going to raise up soldiers or employees or workers. We want to raise up sons and daughters to become moms and dads, to become big people.
Yeah.
And so that was the goal. So what you just made mention of was always the goal.
Okay.
And it wasn't unintentional. It was very intentional. So when you look at leadership structures and models, there's not a lot out there we can pull from and say, oh, this is how they've done it, because it's typically a one-man or, it's a very small show.
Right.
And just, very top-down heavy. Now, to be clear, my dad is the final one in charge in our environment. There's no question. But at the same time, there's tons of room for us to have high levels of responsibility and authority. Now, what's unique to us right now, and what I think we are currently navigating, is the sons and daughters, the teenagers, are now in their 30s and 40s.
Yes.
And when we were all teenagers, the 30s and 40s-year-olds are now 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s. And so the relationships change. Obviously, the structure has to change, but the relational dynamic has to change. So kind of like, so it would be really strange if my mom and dad came over to our house right now and started disciplining and parenting my children. It'd be really awkward. Like, wait a second, those are so even a normal family environment. And so I think those are some of the dynamics that we'll probably write about someday on some level, but there's not a lot to pull from. There's a lot to pull from in books and teaching on succession and leadership, but not this dynamic. I haven't seen it. It's usually the kids have to move out.
Yeah.
There's no other option to just move out, go build your own thing. But we are attempting, experimenting with, do you have to move out? Can this house be big enough? Can you build a house on the same property? I'm using metaphors. Yeah. So that's what we're going after. It's definitely been amazing, and it's definitely been very interesting to navigate. There's so many dynamics involved. And so we are currently navigating that. So, we're no longer teenagers, obviously.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, my kids are out of the house almost.
Yeah.
And so I'm naturally at a stage in life of like, there's a lot I want to do. And then you have some of the guys that are in the 50s and 60s, and they're like in their prime, prime, whatever that means, but they're in their prime going, oh my gosh, I got, 10, 20, 30 years left. Yeah. I want to give it my all. So it just, you got all these dynamics in the same room. same environment, and there's only so much real estate. So I think one of the reasons why there's so many ministries, that is our way to allow people to do what God's called them to do, but they don't necessarily have to move or leave the environment.
Right.
Now, if you do leave, is it a bad thing? No, like Banning and CJ, the Lord called them to Sacramento.
Yeah.
Danny and Sherry, they felt that. Joaquin and Renee, they moved.
Yeah.
So there are times and places for that to happen, but sometimes that's the only option. And I think we're trying to navigate it to have to be the only option. And so, so we're doing it.
Yeah.
We're doing it on some level.
It's I think, in Iris, where my greatest fear, and we can end with this, I'll let you go. But my greatest fear, as I look at what God has built in a moment of outpouring, move of the Spirit, revival, a word, a destiny, a prophetic call, something that is spoken to the world. I mean, Bethel, that's what God's done at Bethel, is that, and similarly at Iris, right? It was like an outpouring that marked a word that sparked a movement.
Yeah.
How do you navigate that to the next generation? How do you make sure that that sons maintain, maintain the original intent and the original word, but also build and grow? There's very few that I've seen do that successfully. I've seen people do it on a smaller scale, I would say successfully, maybe in a local church or a smaller, maybe a small, when I mean smaller, not, maybe the reach that they have.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen on a smaller scale successfully with lots of issues, but successfully. There's very few that I've seen on a larger scale.
Yeah.
And you guys seem to be like just running directly at that and going, we're going to do this.
Yeah, I think the greatest challenge for any generation is to gain a value for something they did not pay a price for. And that right there is the huge challenge. So how do you, is the next question, how does a generation gain any value, if not the same value, but it costs them zero?
Yeah.
So the two things I would say for right now would be, one, for somebody that wants to get value for something they didn't cost them anything, is to get as close as they can to the heartbeat of the price it cost, how much it cost. So what does that look like? Talking to the people that pay the price, getting close to them as possible, and not just hearing the stories, but feeling the stories. Like, get connected to, this cost them an arm, or this cost them whatever. And like, just in the realization, then I think the second part is that generation realizes, I have a responsibility to take this. Inheritance does not mean retirement. It means responsibility.
Yeah.
And so I think a generation that receives an inheritance, if they can go, oh, I can just cruise. No. My job now is to not just maintain this and steward it, but is to increase it. And so I would say, if you had asked me what phase we're in, I always say we're out of the gain of value phase. I think we're in this, and I'm a part of it, just kind of anybody in my level of age and life. Now we're going, okay, how are we going to increase this? So now we have a bunch of people that are beginning to build towards the future. And so, but I would say the last 10, 15 years was get a value. And now we're moving into, okay, these sons and daughters aren't just kids anymore.
Yeah.
They're moms, and they are fully responsible for this environment. They carry the weight of the finances. They carry the weight of the presence at all the things that are important to us. They feel the organization, and they feel the weight of revival, the movement, the presence, signs and wonders and miracles. They feel that weight, and now they're going, okay, what are we going to do to raise up another generation and to take this thing forward?
Yeah.
So I feel like we're in that phase.
Yeah.
And history will tell us. I mean, at the end of the day.
There's something that I've been milling around, and I don't even like the question, but I ask, and I'd love to just hear your insight on this. The first question I think most people start with, or the first question I think most people should start with, and please tell me if I'm wrong, is this supposed to go beyond me? And I think, and I'm fully convinced with Iris and Bethel, but I think a lot of people, they just assume. There's a lot of pastors that assume. There's a lot of ministers that assume that God wants to take it past them. Do you think that God in everything that's built by him, he wants to maintain, take it bigger and continue to grow and build? Or do you?
I think it's
do
a
you
good
know what I'm
question.
saying? Maybe that's not a. I don't know. If
No,
I'm
it's an
phrasing it well.
interesting
Like,
question. I probably would ask, does the take it to the next level mean bigger? Does it mean more? I don't know. I don't. I'm sure it does often, but I don't know if it does every time.
Yeah.
I think so. We had to change our language. So we did a language change a little bit. It was probably 10 years ago now that I think about it. But instead of saying succession planning, we called it success planning, because succession planning implies, okay, this what causes success. We need to replace it with the same thing.
Right.
So it would very much like, okay, we got to replace that personality.
Yes.
That person's role. We got to replace that. And it's like, wait, that's impossible.
Right.
No one can be a Chris Valentin.
Right.
No one can be a Bill Johnson. No one could be a Danny.
Try being a Heidi Baker.
No, no, this is a great point. Like, no one ever going to be a Heidi Baker.
No one.
So if we are thinking the success is that we replace that person with so we realized, that's not going to work. So we changed our language to success. So success, what is success? So that's the question I would say is you have to define what is success beyond you.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah.
And I think if you can get that sorted out, then that's what you build towards. So for us, we are not trying to create another Bill Johnson.
Yeah.
There's no point in that. You know, the funny joke is people say, they ask me questions. So what's the like to step in your dad's shoes? I say, well, first of all, he hasn't taken them off. And second of all, he's told me he's not ever taken them off.
Yeah.
It's a joke, but it's a serious joke.
Yeah.
He's like, no. You have your own shoes to fill.
Right.
And so for us, what is success? I think it's increased? Do I think it's more? Do I think it's all the above? Probably.
Yeah.
Is it going to look vastly different? Absolutely.
Yeah.
What it's going to look like, I don't know yet. So I think it's a little bit of, we're going to know as we go.
Yeah.
But we believe we've got the pieces in place. We've got a generation that understand the cost, and now they're carrying the weight of it, and they're going to move it forward. So those are some of the thoughts around that.
Come on. Well, I could sit here all day, and you're too polite to tell me to shut up.
I am too polite, so I'll let you end it.
No, so I'm gonna shut this down. I don't want to. I hope we get to do this again sometime.
Let's do it again.
Eric, no joke, man.
Yep.
Honestly, these past few months, just getting to know you, seeing you laugh at me making dumb mistakes with my bee finance, and just meeting your wife has been one of the greatest joys that I've had in this season in Reading.
That's awesome.
And I mean that sincerely. As I sit back and look at leaders who are going after not just a move of the Spirit, but how do we do that with excellence? How do we go after it? And you tackle these really beautiful issues that have been handed to us by a previous generation. You do it with grace. You do it so well, man.
Cool. Thank you.
And just getting to know you, getting to know your wife. It's just been so much fun, man.
That's cool.
So thank you for coming in.
Absolutely.
Listen, if you want to, he's got these 2 books out. Okay, we got Momentum and Christ in You. He's coming out with another one pretty soon.
Next year, mostly like next fall of 2020.
Okay. Anywhere that you're going to be? Anything that you want to say? Any
Thanks
plugs?
for having me on the show, and you're awesome. Thanks for getting me into bees. And I'm excited about extracting honey soon.
Okay.
So Well,
let's do this again sometime,
do
we'll bring our honey and we could do a taste test.
Let's do it
in front of people.
Let's do it.
Love you, Eric.
Love you too.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Will. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for watching, everybody. We just had an amazing time with Pastor Eric Johnson from Bethel Church here in Redding, California. Thanks for watching this. If you liked it, send it to somebody. There's so much good stuff in this. I don't know why you wouldn't. Send it to somebody. Subscribe below. Click the link below and subscribe. We will see you the next time on The Green Room, a Iris Global podcast. Love you guys. It's Will Hart. If you want to follow Eric, Instagram,
Eric J76, and you can scroll down and see the fro.
Come on, and you need to see the fro, and I want to see the dreadlocks. And love you guys. We'll catch you in the next Green Room.
Awesome.
Thank you, Eric.
Absolutely, man.